Didn't I promise you all that they are coming? I promised I will launch the retro rewatch. Right, what's going on, everyone? Jambi 434. Now, because my internet camera decides to be a dumbass and cuts out halfway through when I'm trying to do this video, for my first recording, that is, I've now got accustomed to use Streamlabs, so StreamYard. So if you see StreamYard there, it's for a reason. So it is what it is. It is what it is. So we are going to start the first ever Wrestling Retro Rewatch. Episode number 1. This is a tough one. This is a fucking tough one to do. So our first ever one is that we're going to have to go back in time to Hell in a Cell 2019. Oh man, I remember staying up for this. And this will go down as one of the worst endings to a pay-per-view I have ever seen. Now, this makes some other PLEs that were garbage back in 2019, 18, whatever. This was bad. And trust me, we're going to get to that part later on. But we did have 2 very good matches on this show, which hurts because I feel sorry for the competitors, the 6 people who were involved at the start of the show. Right, so we're going to start things off with the Raw Women's title match inside Hell in a Cell. We have Becky Lynch defending the championship against Sasha Banks. Now, Sasha only had just returned from. She was at the time took a sabbatical from wrestling because I think her last appearance was actually at WrestleMania. I think her and Bayley dropped the tag team titles to the Iconics. Yeah, dumbass decision. Anyway, so Sasha comes out first, followed by Lynch. Sasha attacks Becky as they lower the cell and slams Lynch into the ramp and then into the barricade. Lynch then kicks the door into Sasha's face and they brawl in the cell and into the ring. Becky grabs a chain from the door and nails Banks with body shots. Then drop kicks Banks to the floor and whips her into the cell. Becky then finally locks the cell. Why didn't the referee do it? I've no idea. Banks whips her into the cell, which Lynch then Lynch whips her into the steps. Becky pulls out a table, slides into the ring, and pulls out a ladder until Banks cuts her off with chair shots. Sasha sets up the ladder, and Lynch follows with chair shots. Sasha gets a cradle for a 2 count. Lynch slams her onto the chair, and Banks fires back and drop kicks the chair in Becky's face for a 2 count. Sasha looked great, by the way. It looked like she did not lose any ring rust because she didn't wrestle, I don't think, for like 7 months. So Sasha looked great. I think their match at Night of Champions as well was a fucking great match. Becky fights back with the Exploder, drop kicks her into the cell a few times. Banks then sends Lynch to the ladder with a Meteora. And back in, Banks gets a 2 count. Banks dumps her onto the floor, slams her arm into the door. This looked fucking painful. Back in, Sasha gets another 2 count. Sasha then Pillmanizes the arm, gets another 2 count. Grounds the action, continues to focus on the arm. Sasha gets the chair, sets Becky up on it. Meteora for another 2 count. Banks was getting very frustrated at this point. So I don't blame her for it because she literally dominated most of the match. Then Sasha then wedges a chair into the cell. Lynch fights back, slams Banks onto a bunch of kendo sticks, which Banks brought to the ring. Adds in another kendo stick and sits Banks on the chair and followed up with a dropkick off the apron, which was a neat spot, by the way. Becky then sets up a table. Banks then hits a backstabber. Work up on the top and trades and then a Meteora for a table for a 2. Man, this match was this was cooking at this point. Apologies for the spit you might have seen. Sasha gets another kendo and locks the bank statement with it. Becky then fights back, slides to the floor, and escapes. Kendo shots to Banks follow when Lynch starts, just lights her up. Banks whips into a chair wedge and then back in. Banks brings back more chairs and piles up with chairs. Then follows up with repeated chair shots with head up and poses. Banks got Banks did then get followed up into an advanced exploder, into a disarmer. Sasha taps out. Great match. Match of the night by some distance. This was match of the night. And yeah, that's probably going to be the only highlight you're going to see from this match. Next up, we have a tornado tag match. Roman Reigns, the Big Dog era, and Daniel Bryan to take on the Bludgeon Brothers. Match starts with all four men fighting at the beginning. Bryan fits a missile dropkick and a suicide dive. Roman and Bryan run wild as Harper's down, favoring his knee. Gets back into action, but limping around as Rowan and Reigns work on the outside of the ring. Rowan hits a dropkick but misses the splash. Reigns follows up with a Samoan drop for a 2 count. Harper cuts off with a super kick and gets a 2 as well. This match started very quick, and I liked it. I enjoyed this match. Double team Roman. Bryan comes back in the ring, cuts him off, and dumped him with an elbow. Then they beat down Roman, clearing the ring as the monsters follow them out and maintain control. Roman grabs the stairs and hits Reigns with them. Back in are the Bludgeon Brothers and isolate Daniel Bryan. Double teams forward another 2 count. They look for Doomsday. Roman makes a save and Bryan gets a victory roll for another 2 count. Rowan takes out Reigns again. Bryan hits the lapel lock on Rowan. Luke Harper makes a save. God, I miss Brody Lee. God rest his soul. He is missed to this very day, so God bless Brody Lee. So what is going to bug me before I carry on with this? How did fucking Vince McMahon not see anything in Brody fucking Lee? You saw his run in AEW. He was fucking great in AEW. Vince McMahon at that time was a fucking clown and he was losing his fucking mind. And we're going to get to that in a few moments. By the way, Bryan then hits a Cow's a powerbomb with Hurricane Rana. Reigns spears Rowan through the announce table, which is pretty neat. Everyone is down. Bryan hits the super psycho knee. Roman with a Superman punch with a spear for the 1, 2, 3. 16 minutes. Great match. And all I can tell you is from here, let me tell you what, kids, it's yeah, unfortunately. Post-match, Roman and Bryan, we're going to tease shaking hands. Bryan pulls back and offers a hug, and then they hug. You had Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns hugging in the middle of the ring. Anyway, let's get to the end of that. Now, usually, I tend to want to skip the interviews backstage. We had a backstage interview with Seth Rollins. Rollins said he doesn't know how to prepare for tonight. He said he's never encountered anything like Bray Wyatt, and tonight is going to be a test. But he'll be ready and survive and will burn it to the ground. At least hopes. Let me tell you what, kids. Seth Rollins at that time was fucking cringe. And you know what? I am proud of Seth Rollins for rejuvenating his fucking career because of the absolute trash that he was booked with. When Rollins won the title at WrestleMania that year when he beat Brock Lesnar, I thought Rollins could really save the company because the year prior, Rollins was the best thing about Raw, and Raw was terrible. Trust me, Seth Rollins was the best thing about Raw in 2018, and 2019, he was the worst thing about Monday Night Raw, was our beloved world champion. Anyway, next up, we have a match that was not even scheduled for the show because let me go, before we get to the Randy Orton Mustafa Ali match, before the pre-show, 4 matches were on the show. That's a Triple H takeover fucking show. But let's just say this is not TakeOver. We will get to TakeOvers very soon, thank God. Anyway, so Randy Orton against Mustafa Ali. Both men lock up. Orton grounds things right away. Ali counters out, and Orton takes him out to the corner, follows some chops. Some uppercut follows. Ali fires back and lays in some chops of his own. Orton eye pokes. Ali heads up to the top. Orton knocks him straight to the floor. Heel Orton is the best. I don't give a fuck what people say. Heel Randy Orton was the best. Don't give a fuck what people say. Orton follows him out and lays the boots into him, suplexes him on the announce table. He does it again, rolls back in. Ali beats the count, and Orton follows up with repeated stomps. Dumps him out again, and Ali counters back with a dropkick. Orton quickly cuts him off by posting him and back in. Orton gets the 2 count. Orton grounds things again. Ali fights with Orton firing some more strikes. Ali slowly fights back, hits some kicks and elbows, and then rights and chops. Orton cuts him off with a shot to the ribs, and then Ali hits a dropkick with Randy Orton being quite stunned. Now, this is a match I did not really care about, but it was getting a bit interesting at some point because I love Ali. Ali's fucking great. Ali hits a suicide dive, continues to attack with some repeated strikes. Then Orton throws him back into the ring, but Ali keeps firing away. The Enziguri into a rolling X Factor with a 2 count. Orton cuts him off with a snap slam for a 2 count. Ali fires back with a spin kick. Goes to the top rope, misses the 450. Rolls through and hits a tornado DDT. 450 again misses. And Orton hits the draping DDT. Orton celebrates. And then the RKO was counted. Yeah, you heard it. Randy Orton's RKO was countered by Mustafa Ali, and it was fucking great. And Ali then cradles for a close 2 count. Enziguri follows, Orton rolls. Ali rolls into the RKO. And that was it. 1, 2, 3. Crowd was dead during the match. Ali put a great effort in. And Orton won in 12 minutes. Now on the pre-show, as I will never cover the pre-show, we had Natalya against Lacey Evans, which Natty won. I believe I don't give a shit. And then we had the rematch scheduled for Raw. Why? Crowd didn't care then, crowd doesn't care now. I love Natty. Lacey Evans is terrible. And I hope and I'm glad that Natty is never going to work with that again. Women's titles, pointless titles. Get rid of them. They're garbage. Focus on the Women's United States title and the Intercontinental title. Please focus on them. I plead. Right. Women's title match. Nikki and Kairi begin the match. Kairi attacks. Takes out Bliss and Asuka tags in as the challengers take control. Asuka runs wild and gets a quick 2 count. Nikki fires back, tags in Alexa Bliss and takes down Asuka, and then the double knee moonsault follows. Bliss gets a 2 count. Nikki tags back in, and then they double team Asuka as Nikki gets another 2 count. Asuka fires back with a flurry of strikes, dumps Nikki out of the ring. Asuka fights back on the champions and back in, gets another 2 count. Kairi tags in, chokes out Bliss in the ropes by using the hair. Bliss manages to get a 2 count, but Kairi cuts her off and tags in Asuka. The ass attacks follows. Asuka then holds the double octopus hold in the ropes, and the challengers continue to dominate the match. They continue to isolate Alexa Bliss, ankle up by Asuka as Bliss fights back. Asuka transitions. Man, get my words out. So the half grab. Alexa escapes again, but gets slammed down. Kairi tags back in, lays his boots on Alexa Bliss and pokes Nikki's eyes, and hits the sliding D on Bliss. Dodgy. And gets another 2 count as the ref is distracted by Nikki. Asuka tags back in and follows with some kicks. Gets another ankle lock. Bliss counters and tags in Nikki Cross. Kairi joins in. Nikki runs wild, like the good old days with Sanity and with the Bulldog. Nikki takes out Asuka, heads up to the top and gets a high cross, followed by her 2 count. Kerry counters the purge, hits an Alabama slam, heads up top, goes for the insane elbow, and then Asuka missed Nikki Cross with a head kick, and then Asuka and Kerry saying the Kabuki Warriors won the tag team titles in 10 minutes. All right, match. Crowd wasn't into it, dead as usual. Then we have the OC versus the Viking Raiders and Braun Strowman. This match was boring. And I love the War Raiders in NXT. The War Raiders were fucking great. They had some of the best tag matches you'll ever see in black and gold. Braun Strowman dropped the ball with him too many times, and OC, AJ Styles did not deserve this, by the way. To be fair, I don't really want to get into this match. This match was terrible. It was a DQ. OC gets DQ'd for beating the hell out of the Viking Raiders and Braun Strowman. It was a 8 minutes bore fest. Terrible. One of the worst matches I think I've ever seen. Not one of them. I've seen worse, but that match was terrible. And then we get to Kevin Draft by the Street Profits, and then Carmella loses the 24/7 title to Tamina Snuka. Jesus Christ. Don't give me flashbacks for that 24/7 title. Jesus Christ. King Corbin cuts a promo, says he's disappointed in facing Gable. I will not say the first name, as it's a name that for me is strictly now forbidden. He says how he put The Rock in his place and demands respect. He runs down Gable with short jokes. And this is where Gable was now known as Shorty G. It's fucking embarrassing to call Gable Shorty G. Jesus Christ. Anyway, so we're going to get into the match. Gable hits a rolling Liger kick, involved with some strikes until Corbin slams him. Gable looks for the ankle lock and Corbin escapes. Corbin fights off the sleeper and then puts him to a post. Corbin follows him to the floor, posts him again and back in the ring. Corbin follows some strikes and then whips him into the buckles for a 2 count. Corbin knocks him to the floor looking for a count out. Gable rolls back in. Corbin lays a boot on him and grounds the action. Corbin gets another close call with another lariat. Gable encounters and into a spine buster. Gable encounters into a Rana. Hits a dropkick and lays him some strikes. Chaos Theory gets a 2 count. 3 rolling Liger kicks follow until Corbin counters into a powerbomb for a close 2 count. Gable counters back with a hanging armbar, post Corbin's knee, and then again. Corbin counters with a deep 6 for another close 2 count. He follows up with some rights, talks some crap, and then Gable counters back, counters the end of days into a rolling neckbreaker and a moonsault for a 2 count. God, this match was boring. Ankle lock follows. Corbin crawls under the ropes to escape. Corbin then hits an apron chokeslam, grabs the scepter, the referee takes it, and Gable beats Baron Corbin with a roll-up. God almighty. This is where the show was taking a severe nosedive. My God, boring. Absolutely terrible. And then we have the 24/7 fucking bombs. Tamina's running away from the bombs. Carmella super kicks her, and then R-Truth wins the title. Jesus Christ. Now we're gonna get into the SmackDown Live Women's Title match. Bayley defending against Charlotte Flair. The dark days. Charlotte Flair lets you win the title every week. Charlotte starts the match quickly with a neck breaker followed by some knife edge chops. Bayley misses the high cross, and Charlotte falls up with a Boston Crab. Bayley fights and makes it to the ropes. Poke Charlotte in the eyes and follows with some strikes. Bayley lays in ground and pound with some elbow strikes and then works over Charlotte into the corner. Charlotte fires back, hits a clothesline, and lays in some chops. Suplex follows, and then a forearm strike connects until Bayley trips her up and slams her into the floor. My God, this crowd was not interested. They just did not care about this match. And I know there's going to be Bayley superfans out there, and Charlotte Flair Marks is going to say, oh, he's a big meanie. This match was boring. I was bored watching this match. Bayley then took her for a 2 count. Charlotte battles back. And she posts the knee of Bayley with a chop block continues. Charlotte really focused on the knee of Bayley. Hits a natural selection for a 2 count. Charlotte again attacks the knee. Adds up to the top in the terrible moonsault. Eats knees. God, she can't do a moonsault for shit. Bayley falls into the floor and Charlotte hits a fallaway slam. Attacks the knee again. Bayley goes for a cradle for a 2 count. And then there's a big boot by Charlotte. And Bayley tried to use the ropes. So this was the teaser of Bayley turning heel. Bayley needed to turn heel because the gimmick was getting terrible. It just did not get over well on the main roster. Oh, Vince McMahon didn't have a clue what he was fucking doing. Charlotte Flair hit a figure of 8. Bayley taps in 10 minutes. Terrible. Boring. Garbage. And then you see Bayley was crying after the match. I'm crying right now, having to review this show. Thank God I'm getting to the end of it. Backstage, Gable then talks about Baron Corbin coming up short tonight. Not funny. He proved himself tonight, and he is the bigger man. Baron Corbin lays him out. You know what? Thank God this is nearly over. Thank God it's nearly over. Right. This is the one you've been waiting for. Main event for the WWE Universal Championship in a Hell in a Cell match. Seth Rollins defends against Bray Wyatt, the Fiend. Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, was the hottest thing that Vince McMahon, Wyndham Rotunda, created. And because you wanted to protect Seth Rollins at the time with his investments, Rollins was getting booed like piss because Bray Wyatt was the fucking hottest thing that you had. You had one of the best creative ideas from the biggest creative mastermind in wrestling in Wyndham Rotunda. Anyway, let's get into this shit fast. Seth comes out first, followed by the entrance of the Fiend. Fiend looked awesome. They kept the red lights on, even though there was a red Hell in a Cell. Why? It gave vibes of Kane and Mankind when Kane first debuted in '97. We will get to those sort of pay-per-views as well, so it might cheer me up for watching this trash. Seth fires out first and gets mowed down. Seth tries to grab a candlestick and attacks the Fiend. Bray no sells and works him over with strikes. Urinage follows as they work to the floor. Bray continues to maintain control. He whips Rollins into the cell, chops him in the throat, and then crushes him against the cell. Wyndham was getting cheered like fuck, let me remind you. Then whips Seth into the steps, and again, Seth hits him with the steps, taking him down. Seth pulls out a table, slides in the ring, and hits suicide dives numerous times. He slams the Fiend into the steps, sets up the table, and then the dive is counted into a Sister Abigail into the cell. Love that spot. It was great. Back in it, Seth fights back, hits an Integer and a super kick. And the Fiend is on the table as the high fly, and Seth hits out with hits the blackout, and the Fiend keeps popping up and hits the Sister Abigail for a 2 count. We were just getting to the point where we were just thinking, just end the match. Just please finish the match. Bray Wyatt should have won this match in less than 10 minutes. I don't give a fuck what people say. At the time, everyone was a Rollins mark at the time. I like Rollins, but his work in 2019 was terrible. Jesus Christ. And then we get to the part he snaps Seth's neck and dumps him to the floor. Fiend gets a sledgehammer. Rollins hits numerous super kicks and numerous curb stomps. I think Rollins must have hit about 12 curb stomps in this whole match. God almighty. And then Rollins hits a pedigree with another curb stomp to a lot of boos. Rollins was getting booed out the freaking building, and then Bray kicks out at one. And the crowd was going crazy because they thought this guy is inhuman as Bray Wyatt. The Fiend was fucking unhuman. Seth hits another super kick, leads to 5 more curb stomps. Seth gets a chair, another chair shot, gets another 1 count. Seth gets a ladder, lays it on the Fiend's face, and hits him with a ladder, getting a 2 count. Seth gets some kendos and a toolbox as the Fiend is still down. Uses the toolbox and hit the ladder on the Fiend's face to an even bigger chorus of boos. Rollins picks up the sledgehammer. The referee is pleading for Rollins not to do anything. Bray was literally out cold. And then Seth Rollins hits the Fiend, and the referee stops the fucking match. At this point, I was thinking to myself, why did we bother? Most people probably had to get up for work the next morning. It was probably about 4 a.m. UK time when the show finished. And I was never more angrier at a pay-per-view than I was that night. It was a disgrace to WWE. Vince McMahon was embarrassed, should be ashamed of himself for that fucking grave decision. You had the hottest act in pro wrestling, and it was ruined in 2 months. 2 months. And Bray Wyatt, there was no coming back. Seth Rollins, you know what? I did kind of feel sorry for Seth Rollins. Because Seth Rollins initially said he wanted to kill Vince after the show went off the air. Rollins was booed out of the fucking building. You had chance of restarting the match. Bullshit. Refunds. AEW chants were happening. Your biggest act in the company was booed out of the building like a little bitch. My God, man. WWE really fucked everyone over that night. It was one of the worst Hell in a Cell matches I think I have ever seen. And I can't remember where the show was actually at. Let's take a look. This was in Sacramento, California. And I've never heard a more vocal crowd. The most one-sided crowd ever for Bray Wyatt. Just a disgrace. Absolute disgrace. And again, I felt for Rollins. Because he was booked like I meant to be like he was a cringe guy. It's the thing, 12 months before that, Rollins was the savior of Raw. And then he became the most hated guy in the company. And that hurt because I like Seth. Seth Rollins is great. But then 4 weeks later, they eventually put the belt on Bray Wyatt, and it was fucking meaningless. Terrible. If I had to give the show out of 10, I would give it a 3. Because Sasha and Becky was fucking fantastic. Roman and Bryan was against the Bludgeon Brothers. I thought was a good match, great match. Thoroughly enjoyed that match. And then the rest of the show, I don't think no one cared about the other matches. It was probably the only match I watched of Bayley, who I adore. No one gave a fuck about. Anyway, so there it is. There's your first Wrestling Retro Rewatch. Thank God this episode is done, and thank God I will never review this pay-per-view ever again. So remember, smash that like button, subscribe, do whatever you want. If you enjoy it, thank yous. If you don't like it, I hope you break 3 toes and end up like Phil Mitchell on the drink. But anyway, thank you. I'll see you for the next episode. So the next episode, we're going to go with a good show. We are going to cover SummerSlam 2002, one of my all-time favorite pay-per-views. So I will get SummerSlam 2002 done, and then we're going to go back to Dark Times, and I am going to swallow my pride, guys. I will be reviewing Super Showdown 2020. Yeah. I'm not looking forward to that, but I will get it done because I love my viewers. Anyway, like I said, hit and like, and I'll see you next time. Peace.